So welcome everyone to another Course in Miracles talk and meditation. You are most welcome. You are loved. You are blessed. You are infinite love. You are not a body in a tiny little world of separation, separate things. We're not that. Today we will be going through the analogy of the two pictures. It's in chapter 20. I'm going to be reading from another chapter to start with, but the two pictures is in chapter 17, section 4. But to start with, we're going to be going through a couple of paragraphs to lead us into the two pictures. And interestingly, he was showing me the two pictures section throughout the week. And then I just opened the course one day and these couple of paragraphs just fell open to this section. And I realised when I was reading it that it'd be a great introduction to the two pictures. So an overview of the two pictures is that we either see the body or we see the holiness. That's literally what we're asked to look at. We're either seeing the body, which is seen through the ego, part of our mind, or we're seeing the spirit, holiness, formlessness, purity. So he gives us this great analogy with the two pictures to help us really understand what, if you are seeing someone as a body, a personality, a separate person with a separate interests, then what you will get will be a certain outcome. And if you are perceiving holiness, purity, God's love, the Holy Spirit, and you're overlooking the body, your eyes will still see shapes and forms, but it won't put a meaning on it. So the holy mind doesn't see separation. It sees God in everything. And someone messaged me through the week and said, how do you see oneness? What is oneness? And the best way to describe that is to say in workbook lesson 30, and I think 31, where it says God is in my mind. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. Is that if everything's God, so if you're looking at the images and all you're seeing is God, so you look at a table or a lamp and you see God in it, then that's oneness, because everything you look at is God. So if everything's God, then it's one. It's all God. And that's what this mind here saw. It's all oneness. It understood oneness through that seeing. So to see God in everything, or to see love in everything, we need to have our mind healed of its belief in separation. And that is the Holy Spirit and Jesus's purpose to help us. So all through the course, like reading the course and doing the lessons, you're listening and reading and hearing the words that are leading you to change your mind about the world. And however long that takes, it takes. Because in this dream world, we have dream lifetimes. And we seem to feel ourselves to be in different bodies in different lifetimes. But it's all a big dream the mind's having. So what I've been guided to say a lot these days is to let you know that anything that you're reading or hearing from so-called teachers are whispers to the mind. They're whispering to the mind that's asleep, waking it up. They're not whispering to you as a personality. You don't need to worry about this idea that who am I going to be without the ego? What leaves your mind is all the fear, all the guilt, the commentator, the judger, the comparisons. All that leaves your mind. And that's why he talks about that the peace is the goal of the course. And that a quiet mind is the goal of the course. So if you can think of having your mind be completely free of all the fear, all the guilt, and these are just thoughts, right? Beliefs and thoughts, all the judgments, all the opinions, everything that makes you feel anxious, depressed, helpless, hopeless, terror, whatever the experience is. The Holy Spirit can replace all those thoughts with his loving thoughts, with thoughts about who you are and where you are. And so Shannon and I were talking yesterday about the eye of the needle and the dark night of the soul journey. And interestingly, we both shared that it took 2 days. And we'd never talked about this before. And I said to her, I think it was by the time that really big fear came up, it was 2 days by the time it was undone. And she shared the same thing, because it seems to be talked a lot about at the moment, that it takes months and years. And he was giving me another message today to share with everyone here, that he says there's no order of difficulty in miracles. And that's the major point of his course, that as you go to the Holy Spirit and Jesus for help with everything else, just simply go to him for help with this, with whatever arises. Now, when the ego gets vicious, it can feel like, you're swamped by a tsunami wave. But all you need to do is to repeat something. And my suggestion was to repeat, I rest in God. Because in that fear, it's very difficult to read something. And so for me, that's what I did. That was my go-to, which I've shared many times. When the fear really ramped up, that's all I did, was I had something on the wall that said, I rest in God, to remind me to repeat it. So repeat that. That gives you a little bit of light in your mind, a little bit of resting, and then join with Jesus or the Holy Spirit. and just literally give yourself some space and say, I want this fear gone. I want to live in the peace of God. With all your heart, just express to Jesus that you want to be healed of this belief. And the ego fear, that ramping up in the final parts of the undoing, it seems to have more energy. It seems to be, like it says in the Course, more vicious. You cannot do this on your own. And I think what happens is some people, this continues because they're trying to do it on their own. And so you must turn to the trusting Jesus and the Holy Spirit. You must turn to it and really say, help me. And this is where you let go. You surrender everything, the relinquishment of everything. You die to the self in that moment. You have to die to that self. So you die before you die. But it's a glorious death. It's death to the fear and the guilt and the opinions and the ideas and the belief in separation. And you awaken to that your children aren't your children. They're the love of God, and so is everyone else. And everything is equal. It's all love. And you love, 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 love. So you still play the role of mother or father or sister or brother or daughter or son. And you play the happy dream role of being that infinite love, and it's glorious. So have no fear about what's going to happen if you surrender everything to him. But you have to. You can't have one foot in this world. You can't have this one foot of... 9 caller. Sorry, my phone just went off. You can't have one foot in thinking, oh, I want my child to get off drugs. I want my child to have high self-esteem. I want my mother to have no pain. I want my dad to be nice to me. Any tiny, weeny, insignificant desire of your mind for something in this world will keep you in hell. And that's what the final going through the eye of the needle is. You let go of everything. You let go of wanting anything in this world to be a certain way. You lie down and you give up. You just give up, let go and give up. And the most glorious love comes through. And Jesus will carry you across that bridge to the real world. The real world is just seeing everything as love and light and being fully in love with it. Because your mind is cleared of the belief that there's something outside you that needs to change. So I just wanted to share briefly about that it doesn't need to be a long time to go through this. Luckily for me, I'd never read anything about anyone taking years or months or weeks to go through it. I did my journey very quietly inward, and Shannon shared she did too. I was in groups at the time, but my whole focus was just letting go, just noticing what was in my mind in every moment, watching my mind like a hawk, noticing when it was judging, letting it go. Holy Spirit, be with me now. Let's look at this together. Help me see this differently. We'd look at it. He'd show me the truth. He always brings the truth in to our mind when we ask sincerely. To be in the ego is hell. There's nothing in this world that can give you peace or happiness. Nothing. Not your children, not your relationships. No, nothing. we have to see that this world holds nothing that we want. We can't get anything. We can't get anything as a body or an ego. It just doesn't work. And so dying to that self, just lying back and just giving up and releasing everything and just saying, God, I only want you. And then feeling this beautiful, all-encompassing love within your mind. And that's how you exist now, as the love of God. You don't exist, you hold very, very faintly the idea that there's a Cate or that, you're a name, or all these ideas are held very lightly. It's not like you're going to be an idiot and know not what to do. But the ego is going to bring up this idea that all's going to be chaos if you don't have it. But what is it? It's just thoughts of judgment. Judgment. It judges you as guilty, judges others as guilty. It's just hell. All you do is think that this hell is heaven, he says. You're so used to it, you think it's heaven, and it's not. So I just felt to share a little bit about that kind of, a lot of people talking about the eye of the needle and the dark night of the soul. And interestingly enough, it took 2 days because there's no order of difficulties. Jesus doesn't have an issue with the ego ramping up. He's going to give you the same answer as when you got upset that someone looked at you the wrong way. And that's just a thought. The ego says, someone looked at me the wrong way. There's nothing he cannot correct. So remember, just bring everything to him. And when the ego gets vicious and says, all will be chaos if you go down this track, no one will love you. No one will care for you. You'll be an idiot. You'll be homeless. You'll have no money. You won't be able to work. All this stuff the ego throws at you is rubbish. You will do all of that and more. He'll just be so happy and so peaceful. And you can go to work. You'll just love going to work because there won't be any thoughts in your mind that work should be any different than it is. So everything is the happy dream then. So please, if you are going through this last stage, just come to him, and you can think of me if you like, and think of Shannon, and think of any teacher that you see as happy after awakening. Just notice that there's no fear, it looks like a very ordinary life. You're in this world, but not of it. And you're just living in this beautiful, all-encompassing love in your mind. And life, everyone, so-called others, love you because you're loving and kind, and there's nothing to block that love coming out. So let's go on to this section it's mainly about you looking at others as bodies versus you looking at others as the Christ, holiness. And this is his teaching. And he gives us an analogy of 2 pictures. But before that, I want to just read, or Shannon and I will read this section in, let me have a look. So Shannon, chapter 24, I'll start off with paragraph 5. It's on page 512. Thanks, Shannon. So look at your brother and behold in him the whole reversal of the laws that seem to rule this world. See in his freedom yours, for such it is. Let not his specialness obscure the truth in him, for not one law of death you bind him to, will you escape. And not one sin you see in him, but keeps you both in hell. Yet will his perfect sinlessness release you both, for holiness is quite impartial, with one judgment made for all it looks upon. And that is made not of itself, but through the voice that speaks for God in everything that lives and shares his being. Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, Cate. It is his sinlessness that eyes can see, can look upon. It is his loveliness they see in everything. And it is he they look for everywhere and find no sight, nor place, nor time where he is not. Within your brother's holiness, the perfect frame for your salvation and the world's, is set the shining memory of him in whom your brother lives, and you along with him. Let not your eyes be blinded by the veil of specialness that hides the face of Christ from him, and you as well. And let the fear of God no longer hold the vision you were meant to see from you. Your brother's body shows not Christ to you. He is set forth within his holiness.
Thanks, Shannon. So interestingly, in this section, he says, within your brother's holiness, the perfect frame for your salvation. So I noticed that there when I was reading it, and we're going to be talking about frames. So interestingly, he led me to this section and then the other section. So you start to see that he's talking about this frame and this picture. But we'll get onto that in a minute. I just wanted to point that out. Choose then his body or his holiness. I'll just say that again and let your mind really contemplate this, because this is the choice. And this is the whole section of the two pictures. Choose then his body or his holiness as what you want to see. And which you choose is yours to look upon. Yet will you choose in countless situations, and through time that seems to have no end, until the truth be your decision. For eternity is not regained by still one more denial of Christ in him. And where is your salvation if he is but a body? Where is your peace but in his holiness? And where is God himself but in that part of him he sets forever in your brother's holiness, that you might see the truth about yourself, set forth at last in terms you recognise and understood. So I think I'm going to leave it there, because I think the point that we're really looking at from that section is we really need to overlook the body. We have to see with the spiritual eye. We have to see holiness. So when we do the Christ blessing, we're really doing that. And you can even say in the Christ blessing, you are not a body, you are free, you are spirit. If you like, you can add things to that blessing. So remember that you can also imagine that Jesus has appeared in that body. So the image is still the same, but Jesus is morphed and he's not going to come back looking, it's not looking like a man with sort of long hair and as we kind of picture Jesus in Western society. Imagine him having his being in the one character here that you find the hardest to forgive. And I've shared this before, just notice how you would feel if he came back, if he was there. So let's just think of that now. Let's just close our eyes and imagine this one, what we call person. Imagine, just see them now, someone that you have a grievance against, or feel any irritation or annoyance, or you believe they're guilty of something. It can be anyone. Now see their body and just imagine that Jesus is there within them now. How do you feel about them now? And what would you say? Would you feel like you would want to do anything for them and you just felt this beautiful love for them? And everything, all those judgments that you had before are gone? Well, that's what he told me one day in the story of Bully. He said, imagine I'm within her body. And that changed everything for me. I felt such a different experience towards her just for the holy instant. There was a change. And that was enough for me to see how I would relate to her if I knew Jesus was within her and he'd come back to be in her body just for today. And therefore, I could see the comparison. And that comparison is the teaching that I can see holiness within her. And I can see that I have a choice. And I can see there are two ways of looking at my brother. Because when I'm perceiving Jesus Christ in her body, I'm not looking at her body. In my mind, I'm perceiving what he represents, this unconditional love, this gorgeous love that has no judgment in it. And all of a sudden, I change my mind and I realise that all the judgments I had on her and her body can be changed in an instant. And that it's me that's projecting what I'm seeing. Because I said to him, I don't understand. This was a few days before. I said, I don't understand how I'm projecting what I'm seeing in that body. Please show me, what is this projection? And that's what he did. And in that moment, I saw that if I can see Christ in her, then it has to be in my mind to see something else, to see guilty, to see someone guilty and someone mean and someone nasty and unkind. And so in that moment, I was overlooking the body. I was overlooking any sounds out of the mouth. I was overlooking the body's movements, and it was all drowned out, and all I could see was the Christ essence that was in her. And this is forgiveness. This is a forgiveness practice to heal my mind and to show my mind that what I'm perceiving in bodies isn't really there. It's coming from my mind. And this shows us, as we do this practice, that if we can see the holiness within, even for a holy instant, even just for a few seconds, then what we think is there can't be there. We've been shown that what we think is there is coming from our mind. I have put all the meaning onto this body and these words and these movements. It's my ego that is going forth and projecting. And if I can change it, and I'm shown, and I've got truth, that I can put something else there. So when we do our Christ blessing, we've got evidence. We're practicing not looking at a body. And when I say not looking at a body, it's not perceiving or not having judgments or ideas about it, having no thoughts and beliefs about that body, not having no thoughts that say that body's good, that's body bad, whatever it is. That we are looking with what we call the spiritual eye, rather than the ego thought system that's we're listening to, telling us the judgments that are coming forward, talking about the image. And so we're switching over to the Holy Spirit in the holy instant. And as we're saying, I'm seeing holiness. Now, as we've said many times, you can't see guilt. You can't see innocence. It doesn't have a shape or a form. They're ideas that get projected onto the image. And if we can have that changed by seeing that, then we can choose, constantly choosing again. Oh, the ego's judging that image. It says there's guilt in there. It's got a whole story. The ego's coming up with a big story. Help me see this differently. I'm going to now see the Christ in you, the innocence. There is no world. There is no people. And there's only God. You can do whatever you like, but that's what the Holy Spirit and Jesus will bring in as a shift of perception. As you ask, help me see this differently. Show me another way to look at this. The truth will come in. So even when the ego ramps up with its blah, blah story, Jesus will come in and show you that you are spirit and not a body once again. And there's no order of difficulties in that. He doesn't see that ego going from 5 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 any harder to dispel, because the truth is true. So he's just bringing the truth in all the time. You're not a body. You're the love of God. You're beautiful. You're holy. You're infinite. You're pure. You are the Christ. And that's his message to us over and over. So in this little experience that we went through, where we looked at someone, an image that the ego is projecting onto as guilty or whatever, its story. Our only task here is to really want another way to see it. You can say the words, you can hear me say these words, I want another way. But if you say those words, but you don't really want to see them differently, you want to hold that judgment, you won't get help. It's not going to come in. It's if you want to be right and be certain and be in that ego being right and talk about them to everyone and talk about how bad they are and how they did this and that and get other egos to agree with you. And then you think, oh, we should really do forgiveness, but I don't really want to. You'll stay in hell. You'll get all the repercussions of that. You're in kind of a false hell, because hell isn't real. It's just the mind having some kind of pain, and sometimes that gets projected out onto a body and it thinks the body has pain in it and illness. But the body is a projection of the mind as well. So we have to go back to the mind and cleanse it of itself. So we've got two choices. You can see a body, and the ego sees the body, and when I say see, it judges the body. It just looks at an image, and its thought system says they're separate, they're like this, they're like that, they shouldn't say this, they shouldn't be like this, they should change, they should this. Or it goes, oh, I really love that image. Oh, they're really nice, they're this, they're that. It's the same thing. It's judging as a body. Oh, I like their clothes, or I like their hair, or I like how they talk, or it's judgment of a body. And all that, good or bad, is the ego. The ego says it's being nice if it judges nice things about the body, but it's not. Because if it's got nice things, you watch the ego, it turns and it hates those things after a while. Just if the ego makes anything special, it turns around. It might say, meet someone, go, oh, I love their sense of humor. Oh, this is great. And then within weeks, oh, I can't stand it. Their sense of humor is awful. Just watch your mind flipping and flopping. Watch how the ego judges. So the answer is simply to see holiness. And now, it's hard to say when we say the see or perceive holiness. This is something that is abstract because it's not with your eyes. It's actually with your mind you do this work. So we want to really come into this beautiful, holy, divine, pure space. And this working with seeing holiness and perceiving holiness, it really works with you having a relationship with the Holy Spirit and Jesus, and them healing your mind by perceiving your holiness. And we've gone through this a lot in the Christ blessing of how this works. And with the Christ blessing, it's okay even if you don't feel it 100% when you're doing it. You can still do it. But make sure when you do a Christ blessing, either on yourself, you can do it in the mirror, or you can do it with anyone. You can just hold them in your mind. Try to remember before you do the cross blessing that this is for you. But try to feel within yourself that this is the way to the peace of God. So if you're going to do a cross blessing on someone and the ego is really in your mind, really certain they're guilty, just remind yourself that if you stick with the ego, you'll be kept in fear and hell. And how awful are those experiences? And so your willingness to see their Christ self, their holiness, your willingness, that certainty. Look, I know the ego's really judging them and really telling me this and that. Holy Spirit, help me do this Christ blessing. I want to see their holiness because it's the way home for me, for my mind. It's the way home to the peace of God. If I can see their purity and their holiness, while the ego's really, got a big story, and it's really hard because the ego doesn't give up. It's going to say, yes, but what about this? And look what they did then. And it's going to go back into their past and constantly bring it up. And we need to be really, really strong with our commitment and willingness to say, no, I'm letting all that past go, because Jesus says to let go of the past, to come to this holy instant and ask for help. Help me, help me, help me. I want the peace of God. I want to see my brother's purity, and I'm willing to do this because it's for me and it helps my brother, but it's for the one mind awakening to itself. I don't want to be stuck in hell. I'm sick of being in hell. I'm really sick and tired of being in hell all the time, feeling tired and not sleeping and agitated and frustrated and distracting myself and blah, 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 whatever you're doing. I'm willing to see them holy. I'm willing to see the Christ in them, because what other choice have I got except to be stuck in hell? And so that really strong prayer with all your heart. Okay, Holy Spirit, be with me. I'm going to do a Christ blessing. I want to be free of all these thoughts and judgment on them. Help me, help me, help me. Okay, here we go. I'm going to picture their face. Oh, I'm going to bless them. Oh, how lovely it is. Oh, and my mind gets healed. And my mind comes back to tranquility, and my mind comes back to peace. And that's its focus. And then when I see my brother again, I'm full of love. I'm seeing his holiness. And guess what? His mind's healed through having someone see his beauty and him as love, or her. And that's how it works. So let's go back to the two pictures. And in these two pictures, he gives us these aspects of the looking at the body or looking with holiness. So we're going to start at paragraph 6. Shannon, have you got anything to add to what I shared then? Or would you just like to read on? I'm happy for you to comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. I would just have to say that it really is an inward direction. It's when we're reacting to something out here, going inward and joining with him, as Kate was saying, and letting him change our perception. It's, we can't look from these judgments of the ego and change our own mind. It just doesn't work that way. We have to be willing to be shown a different way and to come into that I don't know mind. I don't know. I don't know. I'm willing to be wrong about what I'm judging this person for, and then letting go and letting him show us. And the Christ blessing is a beautiful tool that we can use for everyone. I mean, even people that we don't have a judgment against, because sometimes that's easier to see the holiness in someone that we don't have grievances toward. Would you like me to start with paragraph 6 then, Cate? Okay. You have but little difficulty now in realizing that the thought system the special relationship protects is but a system of delusions. You recognize, at least in general terms, that the ego is insane. Yet the special relationship still seems to you somehow to be different. Yet we have looked at it far closer than we have at many other aspects of the ego's thought system that you have been more willing to let go. While this one remains, you will not let the others go, for this one is not different. Retain this one, and you have retained the whole. It's such a good message. I mean, we have to be all in.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? It's so clear. And this is, when he talks about our romantic relationships, what we call romantic relationships, it is essential to realise that all defences do what they would defend. The underlying basis for their effectiveness is that they offer what they defend. What they defend is placed in them for safekeeping. And as they operate, they bring it to you. Every defense operates by giving gifts. And the gift is always a miniature of the thought system the defense protects, set in a golden frame. The frame is very elaborate, all set with jewels and deeply carved and polished. Its purpose is to be of value in itself and to divert your attention from what it encloses. But the frame without the picture you cannot have. Defences operate to make you think you can. So, Shannon, can you share to the screen the image that I drew up this morning for this little 2 pictures? Might help. Okay, so this is the first picture. And so the frame of the picture, there's the ego thought system. And he talks about the first picture as being a big frame around a very small bit in the middle. And that's the body. And these jewels, the frame is very elaborate. That's the body, all set with jewels and deeply carved and polished. And this is what we like in another's body. And it can be special body parts that the ego loves, I love the eyes and the, body parts, you might say. And what happens is when we're really looking at body parts, it's diverting your attention from what it actually encloses, which is the tiny little picture in the middle, which you don't want to look at. But if you are seeking the jewels of the frame, you can't have the frame without the picture. And what is right in the middle, if you're looking at this picture number 1. What's in the middle, he says, is death. Now, in the Course, he talks about death as a state of mind that is not happy. Okay, death is not death of the body. It's basically being dead inside, dead, not happy, not joyful, not peaceful. So when we're seeking something from a body and we're looking at it and we're loving it, we think it's gorgeous and beautiful, what we're really going to do is set ourselves up for anxiety, seeking and not finding, depression, hopelessness, helplessness, anger, fear, guilt, which is hell. So he says you cannot have the frame, you cannot love someone as a body without the picture. So even if you think about it, even if you hate someone, you're thinking of them as a body because you hate them as a body. So it's the same thing, whether you love them or hate them, your thought system, the ego thought system, is seeing them as a body. And the jewels can be even the hateful jewels that you might hate a body. You might say, oh, their nose is too big and I hate their craggly face, or I hate this or I hate that. And you're hating their body. It's not you, it's the ego thought system that you're in, hating them. So we'll keep that image up. Shannon, would you like to read paragraph 8 while we keep looking at this? We'll keep this up while we go through this.
Sure. The special relationship has the most imposing and deceptive frame of all the defenses the ego uses. Its thought system is offered here, surrounded by a frame so heavy and so elaborate that the picture is almost obliterated by its imposing structure. Into the frame are woven all sorts of fanciful and fragmented illusions of love, set with dreams of sacrifice and self-aggrandizement, and interlaced with gilded threads of self-destruction. The glitter of blood shines like rubies, and the tears are faceted like diamonds and gleam in the dim light in which the offering is made.
So just now, think back to your special love relationships, and think about how you felt when you first met that person and you were looking at their body and you had all sorts of fanciful and fragmented illusions of love. You know, you just went, oh, you know, you're in what they call the honeymoon period. Oh, it's going to be wonderful. Oh, look at this and look at that. Set with dreams of sacrifice and self-aggrandizement. I can't really say that, but and interlaced with gilded threads of self-destruction. Well, we don't really think that when we meet someone. We don't think that there's going to be dreams of sacrifice. But have a think about when you meet someone or you've met someone in the past and you start going out with them and you're so-called falling in love. And think about how there's thoughts of, well, I'll give up my house for this person. Look, I'll give up my job for them. And so this is what he means by these dreams of sacrifice. You know, I'm going to get this love. I'm going to get something. So I'm going to sacrifice and give up for this love. the glitter of blood shines like rubies and tears are faceted. Well, this is kind of how the ego sees love. This is all the ego's thoughts of relationships, of love relationships in this world. And there is tears. Generally, there's after a little while, there's this feeling of, oh, they said this or they did this or they didn't do this how I liked it to do, and just these tears are kind of like this feeling of, oh, this didn't go right. Oh, they didn't say what I wanted them to say. So I'm talking very worldly, egoic, worldly stuff here because we have to see this is kind of what we're stuck in with these romantic relationships. Now, you can also look at this into any relationship, even though he's kind of generally talking about the romantic relationship. This relates to parents, children, friends, everyone, right? Look at the picture. So let's look at the picture on the screen and imagine that that area where I've got body. Imagine it being set with rubies and emeralds and diamonds, and we're just like, oh, look, look at all those beautiful, look at the body. We're looking at someone's body, and imagine, you're scratching yourself on the jewels. They're sharp. There's, you look closer and they're not really clear. They're, so this is how the ego thought system works. It idolizes body parts and then it swiftly turns and it hates the body parts. It loves the personality and then it swifts. He hates the personality. It loves that it does that job and then it turns. He hates it does that job. This is the ego thought system of looking at a body and all the jewels. So imagine that heavy frame, or with these jewels that we think we want. Oh, look how beautiful it looks, but right in the middle is if we go forward into this relationship with the ego, looking at a body and thinking we're going to get something, what's hidden right in the middle is the seeking and not finding. And then all these things where we feel this hopelessness, this anger, this fear, because a body, if we're looking at a body and so-called a separate person to provide us with anything, we will see that we're seeking and not finding. We'll never find it. So look at the picture. Do not let the frame distract you. Oh, okay, so he wants us to look right in the middle here. So look right in this middle bit here now. Just look at this death, anxiety, seeking and not finding, depression, hopelessness, helplessness, anger, fear, and guilt. Look at that. Do not be distracted by the frame. Okay, so we're not going to think of the body, the frame. We're not going to look at that. This gift is given you for your damnation. And if you take it, you will believe that you are damned. You cannot have the frame without the picture. So if we're looking at a body and we're going, oh, that body's beautiful, oh, I want to be with this person and this person's going to give me and make me feel happy and woo me and, oh, I'm just going to be lifted up and they're amazing and all this kind of thing. You can't have that without that middle part. What you value is the frame, but there you see no conflict. So you don't think there's any conflict in looking at a body. Yet the frame is only the wrapping for the gift of conflict. The frame is not the gift. They're not deceived by the most superficial aspects of this thought system. For these aspects enclose the whole, complete in every aspect. Death lies in this glittering gift. So remember, when he says death lies, it means you you will die because you're seeking outside yourself. Remember, he says in the Course, seek not outside yourself. Like Shannon says, we go within. Everything's within us. We have everything here within us. The glorious, beautiful love of God is within us. And what we're doing is we're going and looking, seeing an image outside ourselves and trying to grab hold of a scrap of love, where the whole beautiful, all-encompassing love is within our mind. So death lies in this glittering gift. Let not your gaze dwell on the hypnotic gleaming of the frame. So do not allow yourself to look at another's body and be fooled by it. Don't let your gaze dwell on it. In other words, if you find yourself looking at another body and feeling like, oh my gosh, they're beautiful. Oh, look at this part and look at that part. Remember that hell lies there, right? Because you're valuing body parts. Let not your gaze dwell on the hypnotic gleaming of the frame. Look at the picture, which is that middle part, and realize that death is offered you. So I'm going to, if I value all that frame, the body, I'm going to have all those things that are hidden there in the middle. So this is what he says. Do not be, don't go for the ego's thought system that projects beauty or ugliness or whatever it is. Okay, Shannon, thank you.
Thanks, Cate. That is why the holy instant is so important in the defense of truth. The truth itself needs no defense, but you do need defense against your acceptance of the gift of death. When you, who are truth, accept an idea so dangerous to truth, you threaten truth with destruction, and your defense must now be undertaken to keep truth whole. The power of heaven, the love of God, the tears of Christ, and the joy of his eternal spirit are marshaled to defend you from your own attack. For you attack them, being part of them, and they must save you, for they love themselves.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. Thank you, Shannon. The holy instant is a miniature of heaven sent to you from heaven. It is a picture too set in a frame. So we're going to look at this second picture here. Yet if you accept this gift, you will not see the frame at all, because the gift can only be accepted through your willingness to focus all your attention on the picture. So our attention is going to seeing holiness, seeing purity, seeing the sinlessness, Jesus's love, but Holy Spirit mind. The holy instant is a miniature of eternity. It is a picture of timelessness set in a frame of time. So I've put a tiny little frame around it because we are set in time. You're going to still feel yourself in time. If you focus on the picture, the holiness, the purity of your brother, you will realize that it was only the frame that made you think it was a picture. Without the frame, the picture is seen as what it represents. So it's kind of like in the time, the idea of time will shift away and you will see only the holiness. For as the whole thought system of the ego lies in its gifts, so the whole of heaven lies in this instant, borrowed from eternity and set in time for you. So this is the second picture where we want to look at our brother's holiness, purity, sinlessness, innocence, guiltlessness. We want to focus on that, not on his body. And it is just a tiny, tiny thing, frame held by time. Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, Kate. Two gifts are offered you. Each is complete and cannot be partially accepted. Each is a picture of all that you can have, seen very differently. You cannot compare their value by comparing a picture to a frame. It must be the pictures only that you compare, or the comparison is wholly without meaning. Remember that it is the picture that is the gift, and only on this basis are you really free to choose. Look at the pictures, both of them. One is a tiny picture, hard to see at all beneath the heavy shadows of its enormous and disproportionate enclosure. The other is lightly framed and hung in light, lovely to look upon for what it is.
So we've got two pictures, and we can't partially accept either. We're either in the ego thought system, looking at a body and wanting a body, but actually what he's saying, that it's the pictures only that you compare. Remember, that is the picture of the gift. So if we look, the first picture at the top, if we look directly at, not at the frame, but the picture, and we start to say, okay, in this sense, I'm going to have all these experiences. I'm going to have depression, anxiety, seeking and not finding. I'm going to feel tired, fatigued. I'm going to be sick. I'm going to feel hopeless, blah, flat. So he says that these are the pictures, not the frames, we've got to look at. So the second picture, actually, I should probably have joy, happiness, lightness, peacefulness in there. So that's what we get when we receive through the Holy Spirit, through our holy mind. You who have tried so hard and are still trying to fit the better picture into the wrong frame. So in other words, you cannot take that bottom picture that says Holy Spirit's mind, joy and peace and happiness, and put it up if you're looking at someone as a body. It won't work. You can't do it. And he says that's what we're trying to do. You who have tried so hard and are still trying to fit the better picture into the wrong frame and so combined what cannot be combined, accept this and be glad. These pictures are each framed perfectly for what they represent. One is framed to be out of focus and not seen. The other is framed for perfect clarity. The picture of darkness and of death grows less convincing as you search it out amid its wrappings. As each senseless stone that seems to shine from the frame in darkness is exposed to the light, it becomes dull and lifeless and ceases to distract you from the picture. So this is basically forgiveness. This is what he means here. As each senseless stone that seems to shine from the frame, we're talking about the body, in darkness is exposed to the light. So in other words, when we do forgiveness, so each time we do forgiveness, look, oh, Holy Spirit, I'm looking at someone as a body, I give these thoughts over to you that this person is a body. Please help me see this differently. And like Shannon said, we get the Holy Spirit and Jesus bring in the answer for us in that moment. And finally, you look upon the picture itself, seeing it last, unprotected by the frame, it has no meaning. So this is amazing, this last sentence, right? So in other words, all of a sudden, you look directly at the middle of that first picture and you see that when you value a body and a special relationship, you finally dawns on your mind, oh my goodness, when I pursue this, all I'm getting is a feeling of hopelessness, a feeling of never getting anything. And we see it has no meaning. It doesn't bring me happiness. So we'll read one or two more paragraphs. I think we've. Oh, Shannon, could you? Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
The other picture is lightly framed, for time cannot contain eternity. There is no distraction here. That's such a good point, because the ego will distract us all over the place, and so that we don't even see the picture. There is no distraction here. The picture of heaven and eternity grows more convincing as you look at it. And now, by real comparison, a transformation of both pictures can at last occur. And each is given its rightful place when both are seen in relation to each other. The dark picture, brought to light, is not perceived as fearful. But the fact that it is just a picture is brought home at last. And what you see there, you will recognize as what it is, a picture of what you thought was real and nothing more. For beyond this picture, you will see nothing. So said so perfectly. It's like exactly what forgiveness is just recognizing that what we think is not true.
The picture of light in clear-cut and unmistakable contrast, which is the second picture, is transformed into what lies beyond the picture. As you look on this, you realise that it is not a picture, but a reality. This is no figured representation of a thought system, but the thought itself. What it represents is there. The frame fades gently and God rises to your remembrance, offering you the whole of creation in exchange for your little picture, wholly without value and entirely deprived of meaning.
As God ascends into his rightful place and you to yours, you will experience again the meaning of relationship and know it to be true. Let us ascend in peace together to the Father by giving him ascendance in our minds. We will gain everything by giving him the power and the glory and keeping no illusions of where they are. They are in us through his ascendance. What he has given is his. It shines in every part of him as in the whole. The whole reality of your relationship with him lies in our relationship to one another. The holy instant shines alike on all relationships, for in it they are one. For here is only healing, already complete and perfect. For here is God, and where he is, only the perfect and complete can be.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Shannon. Are you able to come back to the group now? Oh, that's nice. So I hope you all really enjoyed that little analogy of the picture. And it maybe really brought home his teaching about really how important it is to not look at anyone as a body and to just see their holiness. So I really, really enjoyed bringing that. And thanks, Shannon. It's just so lovely. Um,
Thank
so
you.
it's just wonderful. So now let's do our gratitude for everyone and everything and for God, and just really open our hearts in this beautiful gratitude for love, for this teaching, to have, for, just to be able to say, oh, this is what I need to do, just overlooking the body and seeing holiness instead. And that's all I need to do to come to experience this holiness and be willing. So what a beautiful analogy, and just love them. Just think they're so helpful, and just feel so grateful and so much gratitude to everyone. Really, you're just beautiful. I love you with all my heart, and I love you, Shannon. Love everyone. It's just, I see only your holiness. I see only your beautiful selves. And it's just gorgeous to be in this group and to have you here, and to just know your willingness. And let's just not allow that ego thought system to be in our mind. We're not that thought system. We're not the ego. We're the love of God. And just have as our one desire the peace of God. So, yes, Barbara's just asked about the frame, whether it I've just got to see what that message is again. Can the frame represent any form or idol? Yes, it does. It is. It's the idol. It's the desires, the idols, this idea that the ego has that, oh, I'm going to get the love. The ego's always seeking the love outside itself. And love never comes, because egos can't love. The egos don't love. So you're seeking and not finding. So he just asks us to be that love. Be that love. Don't worry about if everyone loves you or not. They can't love. It's an ego world. An ego doesn't love. It's got conditions on love. So don't seek for love. Seek to go within and find the blocks that are there for you not being loving, and then just let love fall out like Niagara Falls. Just let it shining and blossoming and falling and blessing and enveloping everyone you see. Just let it come. Just let it be who you are. And you will just have your beingness and this all-encompassing love. So let go of idols. That's just part of the ego thought system. Okay, we better finish up now. So Elizabeth, if you've got a question, maybe you could message me on Messenger, and I'll answer you. So I really feel like to leave it here, and just to, you can message me on Messenger if anyone has any questions, or you can write on the Zoom to Miracles group a question if you like, if you find a question coming forward from today's presentation. So thank you. I love you and I bless you and I honour you. I see only your beautiful self, gorgeous holy lights. Thank you. Thank you. Blessings.